Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
So I'm Sharon Debresky, and I'm from Canada. But what I wanted to do with you first was teach you in a Ojibwe how to say hello. So it's bonjour.
Bonjour.
Do you want to try? Bonjour.
Bonjour.
And to say thank you in Ojibwe is miigwech. Miigwech. So there, you have now 2 Ojibwe words, Indigenous words. So I am now going to go through the presentation, but I'm really honored to be here in Japan and to be able to share with you and learn from your culture as well. We have a lot of similarities. So I am a First Nations woman, and Ojibwe is how I'm identified in my community. And so there are many, many, many different cultures, different tribes. And you can go ahead with the lights. I just wanted to first show you a picture of my family and me when I was a little kid. So this is my mother. Her name was Brenda. And these are my siblings. And I tried my best through Google Translate. But the first thing I wanted to say is that we grow up and are taught that we don't inherit our world, that we actually borrow it from our children. And so that is always instilled in us. And I don't know if it translated. Did it translate well? Okay. So in Canada, there are over 1,400,000 Indigenous people. And in Canada, Indigenous is First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. And that makes up Indigenous people in Canada. And there were over 500 unique languages and communities, but now there's only about 50 unique languages left in Canada. And these are just some pictures of some children. And so in Canada, we have gone through a relationship with our government and created treaties. And so the treaties were that Europeans who were coming, that we would share the land. And so Canada is 150 years old, but Indigenous people have lived in Canada for thousands of years before that. And so they agreed when the Europeans came, they couldn't survive the cold. So Indigenous people taught them. And then what happened is we went through a period of colonization. Are you guys familiar with the word colonization? Yeah? Oh. And so the government, the crown, wanted the resources in the land, and so they really displaced Indigenous people. And so they also went through a period where it was cultural genocide against Indigenous people. So my mother, that you saw earlier on, when she was 5, she was taken from her community and put in a residential school where she didn't have contact with her family. And they did that to all the Indigenous kids in Canada from the late 1890s, and the last school closed in 1996. So there was a big shift in Canada. And so that was a very dark period of Canada's history. But Indigenous people survived and are very, very resilient. And so what I've learned as an Indigenous woman, and again, I'm taught, is the need for balance. And so this represents a medicine wheel, and it represents the wisdom of our of our communities. And it also talks about those elements of air, water, land, and fire. But as a person, it means that there needs to be balance between my mind, my emotions, my spiritual, and my physical. And so they teach us that if I'm not taking care of my body, then I'm out of balance. And it's like a four-legged chair. If you take one of those, if you remove one of the things in the chair, you would be off balance. And it's the same with the world. It's the same with the elements. And so we are taught that is very important to maintain that balance and to live in harmony with the world. And I think that is very similar to Japanese culture, yeah? Which is important. And then our culture and our language is very important to ground us. There are ceremonies that we go to that remove all the material things, and you're left with your spirit. And you are taught to be guided by your spirit and your heart. And we do many ceremonies on the land. And we have many ceremonies where we honor the land, and we honor the water, and we honor all the beings, like the animals and the plants and Mother Earth that gives us life. And so that's a very important part. This is a powwow ceremony, and the young girl here in this dress, it's called a jingle dress. And the reason that we have different types of dresses and regalia is that the jingle dress is about healing. And so when a young woman or a young child dances, they dance for healing for their family, and they dance for healing for their communities. And so it really is about sacrifice and doing things for other people. And so they dance and they celebrate and they honor who they are through a lot of our cultural ceremonies. And when we think about sustainability, it really is about our connection to the land and the natural laws and how important all of those things are. And so if we're out of balance, then there's natural consequences for that. And we're seeing that now in the world. And I think the biggest part of it is responding to this crisis that we're having with climate change and all of those kind of things. And a lot of our elders and traditional keepers of knowledge tell us that we need to go back to those basic fundamentals of building our relationship with the land and honoring the cycles of nature. And so communities would follow those cycles of nature. So they would know when to pick medicine and when not to pick medicine. They would know which animals were sick, and they would plant at the right time. They would harvest at the right time. And that's been changing with a lot of mainstream industry. And so one of the things that we are taught is that we need the land. The land doesn't need us. And so we need to function from there, and how important that is. And this is the community Shoal Lake. So my family comes from a reserve called Shoal Lake 40 in Canada. And that's my aunt who's doing a water ceremony. And so we are taught to honor the water and to take care of the water. As an Indigenous woman, I'm taught that my responsibility is to take care of the water, because when we carry life, when we're pregnant, we carry life, and we're life givers, and that water is a life giver. Have you guys ever tried to live without water? It's really hard. And like nothing can live without water. And so, we are protectors of water, and we instill this in our children and in our kids. And that's my daughter. She's with my aunt. And every time we go out into the land, she teaches us about medicine to pick. The medicine we need when we're sick, the medicine we need to heal other people, the medicine that we need to have a good life. And so she teaches that to us. This is us protecting water. We in Winnipeg and in Canada are working very hard as a community to ensure that there's clean water for everybody, and that water is life. And so we have thousands of people. Oops, I got pulled on something. This is my family, who are now older, but this is some of them. And so we are protectors of the land, and so there's a lot of times now where we have to stand up to industry in order to protect our water. And then the economic piece is really about balance, and it's about balancing what are we going to leave the next 7 generations. And so we are also told to ask ourselves, what impact will this have in 7 generations? And so those are kind of the things that communities need to think of. And there are a lot of communities that are using technologies to capture traditional knowledge. They're mapping, getting lots of history, and using that to influence change, and using that mapping to prevent development in certain areas. And this is our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. So Justin Trudeau came to Shoal Lake, to our community, because we raised lots of awareness. And so he's going to be investing in clean water in our community. So Shoal Lake 40 supplies water to Winnipeg for 700,000 people, but they can't drink the water. It's not safe for them to drink the water because there's no water treatment plant. Seems ironic. But so Justin Trudeau now is going to commit to that piece. And then the social piece, I think social is very important when we think about sustainability. I truly believe in social justice, and I believe in social change. And so we work very hard. This is the place that I work at, to support our youth and to support our families, and to make sure that we're honoring our inherent rights as Indigenous people. Oh, I'm running out of time. Oh, and then when it comes to sustainability and building leadership, we can absolutely do that by our sacred laws. And I've given you guys these cards. So in the work that we do, we're taught that we need to respect ourselves, we need to respect our families, we need to respect our community, but most importantly, we need to respect the land. And so same with the humility, honesty, and courage. We're taught all of those lessons as individuals, and how we interact, with the world, but more importantly, how we're going to ensure that in 7 generations, we're leaving this world in a better place for our grandchildren, which I think is incredibly important. And then I need help translating this one. I just want to leave you with this message, because I know that there is a role for Indigenous knowledge when it comes to sustainability and when it comes to making choices. Because Indigenous people have been around for thousands of years and know and have a special relationship with Mother Earth. And so this is one of our prophecies, that only after the last tree has been cut down.
最後の一本の木が切られて、でその 最後に残ってる川が汚染されて最後の一匹の魚が捕まってしまったとしてもお金は
食べることができない。
食べることができない。お金で、お金は何も助けてくれないということです。Yeah.
So, you got it in the translation? Okay, so only after the last tree has been cut down, and only after the last river has been poisoned, only after the last fish has been caught, only then will we know that money cannot be eaten. And that's a Cree prophecy. So, Miigwech.
So a couple of minutes so we can share about what you got from this past presentation. The time is yours.